her so much. She's so cute. Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about my recap of my first semester as a full-time college student. Just for a reminder, I am a student of social work at the University of Houston downtown, where I am currently a junior. I also want to make it known, because a lot of people don't know this, social work classes are very application-based, especially when you get to the junior level. Like, you're judged less on knowing a theory and more on can you apply the theory. This semester, I took Advanced Essay Writing, Urban Practice 1, Human Behavior in the Social Environment 1, Case Management, and Social Justice and Professional Ethics. Let's start by going through every class. So Advanced Essay Writing was by far my favorite class. I've never been shy about telling people that creative writing is my favorite thing to do, and that it is a true passion of mine. And if it was a practical degree to get, probably the one I would have gone for. We read essays from the book The Art of the Personal Essay, and we wrote a lot of response papers, which I wasn't very good at because I'm dyslexic. I have a lot of trouble with reading comprehension, so comprehending the hidden meanings of some of these very complicated essays was difficult. We also, of course, wrote essays. We wrote draft essays, like rough drafts. Then we would have a short conference with our professor where he'd tell us how we could improve, what we could do. Then we would write a revision and submit the revised draft along with a cover letter that explained what we had changed and why we had changed it. We did this 3 times throughout the semester, so overall we wrote 3 essays. Our final exam was a writing portfolio. It included 2 of the 3 essays that we'd written this year, except revised a second time, a cover letter for both of those essays, talking about all the steps we took to revise the essay, and it was just a little bit more in depth of a cover letter because these were supposed to be major revisions to these essays. And finally, a self-evaluation, essentially explaining what grade we thought we deserved in the class and why. I loved writing this portfolio because my teacher was so unbelievably helpful the entire time. I was always getting assistance. If I needed any advice on what more to do to a paper, I could email it to him and he'd look it over and he'd literally tell me exactly what to change. When I needed clarification on like, hey, is this how you want the cover letter done? He sent back an email that was like, yeah, totally, that's exactly what I need. When I wrote my self-evaluation, I emailed it to him to make sure that it was the format he wanted, and he was like, yeah, totally, that's good to submit, and I ended up getting an A in the class. I didn't find it all that difficult. I think the most difficult thing was the reading responses, the only things that were actually like difficult content-wise, but it was more just a time-consuming class, but again, my favorite because I was doing something I genuinely love doing. Next was Urban Practice 1. I really don't know how to explain it other than we were learning about practicing social work. I'll read the course description, that might help you. This course provides a foundation of the knowledge, values, and skills required for ethical and effective generalist practice with systems of all sizes. That was it. We had to go to 2 in-person interprofessional events. That was a requirement. You could go to a seminar at the beginning of the semester, which I did. It was called the Household-Centered Care Seminar, where you worked with a medical student and a nursing student, and you kind of just talked about working with 3rd Ward Houston underserved communities medically, which was a very interesting thing. They all are actually required to participate in household-centered care as part of their program. We were given that as an option for an elective next semester, and my teacher keeps saying that she needs more people to be in the elective, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to do it because I don't like the medical field. I don't like medical social work. It is not where I want to be. I mean, my big thing really is I have an incessant fear of doctors, but the more I sit here and think about it, the more I realize it might not be a bad idea for me to experience it in a positive light and get over that fear and work with people who are also terrified of doctors and very mistrusting of them. I don't know, I'll update y'all on that. I also could go to a poverty simulation, which I did, and a lot of people found it stressful. I found it stressful, but I also found it fun. I tried to make the best out of it. It literally simulated being impoverished. You were given a family, and then you had to pick a role. I played the role of the 16-year-old pregnant daughter. I don't remember her name. I think I started with a C. I think it was Cindy. I remember on the weekend, our day off, we had the whole family was going to try to make money, and I remember I'm the only social work student, everybody else is a medical and nursing student, and I'm the only one that's like, guys, let's go to interfaith services, and they wouldn't go to interfaith services. So I went to my mom, and I was like, Mom, give me a transportation pass, because you had to have a transportation pass, because you're supposed to mimic like gas prices and bus passes and all that jazz, and you weren't allowed to walk anywhere. By the end of it though, the guy playing my dad made it a joke. He was a med student. Him and the guy playing the mother of my baby daddy got their money together, bought a gun, and then robbed the bank. It was actually really funny. Needless to say, I enjoyed the poverty simulation quite a lot. I learned a lot from it, but also it was just a very unique and fun experience if you didn't like take it too seriously. And that was the thing. People who didn't enjoy it took it way too seriously. And, you were supposed to get a little bit frustrated. We were all a little frustrated. But at some point, nobody took it seriously anymore. Not to the sense that, like, oh, we're just gonna mess around. But it was like, this isn't real. But we are simulating something like that really happens. It's a good way to get a good experience out of it without losing your mind. Our final was a case study presentation. You could choose to do alone or with a partner. I worked with a partner. I worked with a wonderful girl named Anne. For this, we chose a case study. These are all cases that my professor had actually worked. And fun fact, my professor was the director of the social work program. She's a wonderful woman. Her name is Dawn McCarty. I love her so much. We chose a case study. I chose one about a man named Marcel, who was young and had been homeless since he was 14, he was kicked out for being gay, had no contact with his parents, and had developed some drug problems, had a lot of trauma. But it was a very eye-opening experience. I got to do a lot of research on like the issues he was facing, which were LGBT issues, homeless youth issues, and substance abuse, things that I don't know a lot about. So I definitely feel like I learned a lot about those situations. And further, I had to create an intervention plan that used theoretical approaches. We used the biopsychosocial approach because that is one that is very, very good when you're dealing with substance abuse. I did love this project, and I definitely think I learned a lot from it. I ended up getting an A in the class. Next up, Human Behavior in the Social Environment 1. I actually took Human Behavior in the Social Environment 2 over the summer because you can take them like out of order. Really, all you need in your prereq is sociology because it used a lot of sociology concepts, especially in Human Behavior 2. I didn't see the sociology as much in Human Behavior 1. Just so you know the difference, Human Behavior 1 focuses on the theories. Human Behavior 2 focuses on the theories in a global, social, political, economic climate. But both are application-based classes. So I learned a lot of different theoretical approaches to the practice of social work based upon human behavior and how humans behave when interacting with social settings or just with the environment around them. Like you learn the feminist theory, the systems theory, a very, very common one, the ecology theory, and then the ecosystems theory, which is a combination of the two. I took a lot of notes for that class, and I really enjoyed what I was learning. Also, I learned that eco maps are the bane of my existence. Not hard. They're really not. They're just very tedious to make because they do require thought. The last thing that people want to do at times is sit there and make a map about someone's struggles. I will put a picture of an eco map that I made this semester up somewhere. As you can see, it's very simple. It's just tedious. And then my final, we had two options. We can do the eco map paper or the court watch paper. I hate eco map, so what do you think I chose? For court watch, I had to apply to be a part of the program and I had to go through training. Of course, I got in. And then I had to observe bond hearings on a live stream for 8 hours and fill out a Qualtrics form for every hearing. And there were like 10 hearings per docket. It was actually a lot of work. It was a lot of note-taking while I was watching. It was very, very tedious. Sometimes you got something interesting and sometimes you got something very, very heartbreaking. There was one man who had murdered his 1-month-old baby. They described what he did and I had to skip through that. It was very heartbreaking to listen to. I want to be a social worker because children are the most vulnerable members of our society and they deserve to be protected from people like that. Anyways, we did that. And lastly, you write a reflection paper connecting the theories to the way these people behaved and generally just reflecting on the experience and how it will make you a better social worker. I definitely think I will be a better social worker after watching that. And of course, I got an A in the class. Next up was case management. So case management literally just discusses case management. It's a specific job in social work, being a case manager. Most social workers will perform some aspect of the case management process in their career. The case management process, if I remember correctly, is assessment, planning, and implementation. You're gonna do something with those at some point in your career. We reviewed case management ethics, the goals, models of case management, components of the case management process that are like literally within the 3 steps I just explained, and the different phases. There was a lot of emphasis put on knowledge and the skills needed to be efficient and effective as a case manager. We were taught a lot about brief case management. I mean, you're not meant to work with a social worker for the rest of your life. It's actually meant to be a very, very short span of time. So we learned a lot about doing everything you can to be effective and efficient in organizations and service delivery systems. And my final, I consider it two different things. So I had a test, I had an exam. Exam was easy. We don't normally have tests. Tests are never really application-based. They're normally very theory-based, which anything theory-based is infinitely easier than application-based things, and I will die on that hill. And our presentation was we had to choose a specific topic to research. It could be crises in mental health, human trafficking, or immigration and its effect on children. However, all but one of those was very broad. So she ended up saying, if you pick a topic, just pick something specific within that topic. I did my presentation over crisis in mental health, specifically working with people suffering from borderline personality disorder. You had to discuss how you would go about the case management process with a client facing that challenge and use evidence-based practices. Very application-based. You had to show that you knew what you were talking about, and it was a very, very interesting project to do. I really enjoyed doing it, and I made an A in the class. Now let's talk about social justice and professional ethics. That is our ethics course. That's literally just where we learn about the code of ethics. We had a lot of discussions about ethical issues, possible ethical dilemmas. A great example of an application-based assignment is our midterm in this class. It was literally like an ethical dilemma analysis. You were given 3 situations that all involved ethical dilemmas. You had to choose 2 that you would respond to and answer varying questions, generally identifying in the code of ethics what was violated and what was upheld, and what the social worker should have or could have done differently. It was a very, very interesting assignment, and I did really well on it. I was very pleased. And then the final, you had 3 options. You could watch a movie and write a reflection, read a book and write a reflection, or do an interview and write a reflection. I interviewed a social worker and I wrote a reflection paper about it. I interviewed a lovely, lovely woman who has worked in adoption for many, many years. And, she works in an industry I want to work in. So I definitely was very grateful to get to talk to her. I had to interview her for a different class. It was 2 separate interviews, so I made sure I asked different questions. Don't want to be cheating over here. And then I ended up getting an A in the class, but not before having to go through a small debacle. So I looked at my grades, and the only class I had a B in was social justice and professional ethics, and I was like, oh, did I not turn something in? Did I not do something well? And I went and I looked, and I had lost a grand total of not even half a point, 0.2 points. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. There's no way I could I could lose 11 points minimum to get a B that I don't see anywhere. So I emailed my teacher, and I was like, why do I have a B? And she was like, that don't sound right. Let me look into it. And it's all fine. She said, you did make an A. I made a mistake. I'm going to be, submitting paperwork that's like, hey, messed up this kid's grades. She got an A in my class, and it will be changing my B to an A, which I think is a great testament to, if you think something's wrong with your grade, ask your teacher about it. If you look at your grades and you're like, there's no way I lost enough points here to bring me down a letter grade, then make sure you talk to your professor about it, because sometimes it is something as simple as misentering your grade, which is exactly what happened with me. She just entered the wrong grade. Further, you do have the right to challenge your grades. I ended up downloading, before it was deleted off Blackboard, all of my scores on the grades sheet for my assignment. I downloaded the emails that she had sent me saying that sounds confusing, and I saved everything I could, that in the event that she gave me a B nonetheless, I could go to my school and protest it and say, no, this wasn't fairly done. I deserved an A based on her grading system, and she needs to give me that and uphold it. I never thought it would come to that, and it didn't, but it's a great testament to the fact that, first of all, you have the right to challenge your grades if you genuinely believe you were unfairly graded. And half the time, your professors are human. Teachers are human beings. They make mistakes, and if you ask, they don't have a problem answering questions. Now let's just talk about the professors. There's not really much to talk about, really. I have no complaints. They were all very understanding and flexible with any issues I had. They were quick to answer emails and text messages. As a student who has disabilities and accommodations for those disabilities, they applied them accordingly. And I was generally very, very grateful for the professors that I had. I really enjoyed learning from all of them. Now let's talk about some general tips, because you see, taking college classes in high school is different from taking actual college classes, and it did not hit me until this semester. Your first semester, usually you go to class maybe once or twice a week. You don't go to class every day. So you feel like you have an insane amount of free time. You're like, oh my God, I have so much time. I don't have to do anything. This is wonderful. But then when you're taking 5 classes, you realize on Sunday, when things are due Monday, oh, I've done basically nothing and I have 10 hours worth of work to do. Why? Where is the time going? Even me, someone who's known for being very good at managing their time, had a very hard time adjusting to having so much free time that I had to designate myself what I was going to do. A general rule to keep is you have less time to complete your work than you think you do. Next up, create a schedule of any kind. Like, I wake up every morning around 8 o'clock, I brush my teeth, I make coffee, and I sit and I watch Sailor Moon in my bed. That is what I do every morning. And if I don't do that in the mornings, it's because I had to leave early. An episode of Sailor Moon is 30 minutes long. I'm done by 8:30. I can lollygag around until I give myself till 10 o'clock to start working. And if I don't start working by 10 o'clock, I have an alarm set on my computer and on my phone that's like, okay, you need to get to work right now. Setting alarms and reminders and stuff is a big way that I have coped with my ADHD without ever having to take medication. It's actually extremely useful. Also, take notes in a way that interests you or makes them nice to look at. Now, if you don't really care how pleasing your notes are to look at, you can skip this, it doesn't matter. But I make pretty notes. I like making pretty notes. I literally make those like studygram influencer notes. I genuinely, that's how I take my notes. I just kind of romanticize studying and being smart, being academically successful. It makes doing all of that a lot easier and a lot more appealing, if that makes sense. Next, make to-do lists at the beginning of every week. Now, I make to-do lists and I sort them by like what they're for. Like, I would put urban practice at the top of one page and have everything I needed to do for that week. I would have a general part for just general things I needed to get done. This is another way I cope with my ADHD. It helps me so much to keep track of what I'm doing, what needs to get done, what is a priority. And on my laptop, I have Microsoft to-dos so that I can just put in things I need to get done that day, and it'll remind me to get them done. And checking off to-dos is also really cathartic, and I enjoy it a lot. It just helps with staying organized, and managing your time really are the two most important skills for college. I will die on this hill as well. College isn't hard, especially your major classes. They're not hard. You just have to be able to manage your time well, organize your time well, organize your life well, and be willing to do the work. That is it. It is honestly not that difficult. I actually think college is 10 times easier than high school. Like, I had a harder time in my high school college classes than I am in my major classes right now. I'm not joking. I struggled more in high school than in college. Next, you want to read the syllabus thoroughly. The syllabus tells you pretty much everything you need to know for the year. And if you have any questions and it's not in the syllabus, you can email your professor. And if they direct you back to the syllabus and you say that's nowhere in the syllabus, they will probably look back over it and be like, oh, I left that out. Now, sometimes the syllabus changes. That is fair. The syllabus for my ethics class changed quite a few times. But nonetheless, I read the syllabus because it does give you a general outline of the class, and it tells you pretty much all the assignments you're going to be having and when they're going to be due. And it can give you an idea of what you're doing every week. Last, create a master list of all assignments in your classes in order of when they're due, because all those assignments are pretty much located on your syllabus. It's actually really easy to do. You just have to take the time to do it. Now, you can do it in a spreadsheet, in a Microsoft Word document, in a Google Doc. I did it in a Google Doc this time, but this upcoming year, I'm planning on doing it in Google Sheets because I do like the way the spreadsheet looks better, and I can organize it in a format that will actually be more pleasing for me to look at. It is so helpful with keeping track of what you are doing for school. And that is it. That is my first semester recap, my fall 2022 BSW recap. I really enjoyed this semester. I had a really good time. I cannot wait for next semester. I will definitely be having an intro video talking about the classes I'm going to be taking next semester and all that jazz. I can't wait. I love my college. I love my program. I love school, and I'm really, really excited for this all. All right, stay safe, stay smart, work hard. See y'all. Bye.